Greetings. We are going to get started here momentarily. I think we successfully hit the 2-minute mark, probably better than just about anybody. So give yourself a little hand clap. And y'all were the fastest people to y'all's seats. Oh, y'all, that was a weak hand clap. Come on, let's go ahead and give it a bigger hand clap. It's for yourself. If not for yourself, your neighbor. All right. Well, just try to get the energy up in the room. We are so excited to have Sister Jennifer Blankenship. We are honored to have her here. She's going to be speaking to us for this group specifically, the Roots session. I'm excited to hear what she has to say. She has been pastoring with her husband for a while in Beckley, West Virginia, and has successfully raised 3 children. And as a father of one and one on the way, I know that has got to be an accomplishment. Surviving it as a parenthood is a task. I see it, brother. I see a witness right there. That is an achievement to be honored. She has an MBA, and they are very entrepreneurially driven, have multiple businesses, have been blessed, have successfully pastored, and we're excited she's going to come to speak to us tonight. But Pastor did want me to mention something before we go into this session. The wonderful thing about this group, that this group probably has more life and more energy, don't tell anybody else, hopefully they don't watch the live stream, than any other group. And most of the energy is coming from those that are probably about that high, and my row included. So that is totally okay. That's the sign of life in a church like this. So those that don't have kids, please have grace and patience for those of us that do and are working through that. And if for some reason you need to take your child out for a moment and get the wiggles out or whatever, come back in. We all want to be able to get as much out of the session as possible, and we are glad that you're here, and that's the reason you're here in this session tonight. And so let's just be mindful. We want to plug in and keep our focus and engage as much as possible with this so we can dig down deep and get as much as possible. We want to extract every bit of wisdom that she has to give us tonight, because I don't know about you, but I need it. And I enjoyed last week's session. I've still got my paper. It's got a lot of coloring on it that I'm having to read between. That was not my artwork, but I'm appreciative of these sessions. And so why don't we give Sister Blankenship a hand clap of appreciation, and we're going to enjoy the session here tonight. God bless you.
All right, can everyone hear me? First and foremost, thank you all so much for attending this session. Your time is valuable, and I'm so glad you chose to spend it with me tonight. I give honor to my pastor, my husband. He pushes me a little bit out of my comfort zone, because this is out of my comfort zone, but I do think I have a lot of life experience because I'm getting old. So I have a lot of life experience, so I hope to share with you all some of the things that has helped me. But I honor my pastor and my husband. He's been good to me. I thank Pastor and Sister Adams also in this church for the hospitality and the beautiful accommodations, such a beautiful spirit that you all have, and you've been so welcoming. I feel like the ones that are really blessed to have been here this week. We're going home with a passion and with some fire and determination for excellence back in Beckley, and kingdom-minded. This church is kingdom-minded, and it's beautiful. So I applaud your pastor and your first lady for their vision. And Family Month. How incredible is it that your pastor cares enough about you all to bring in someone, every week of the month to deal with just families and to try to build up, because I believe that strong marriages build strong families, and strong families build strong churches. And in this root season that I'm so privileged to address, it's all about strengthening that foundation, your root system. As they already said, my name is Jennifer Blankenship. I was born and raised in the hills of West Virginia. My dad pastored during most of my childhood, and I have a rich Pentecostal heritage, and I'm so thankful for it. I'm a 5th generation Pentecostal, so that's saying something, isn't it? My roots are deep and they're wide. So I had one brother growing up, but I lost him to an accident at the age of, he was 16, I was 14. That deep loss in our family impacted every aspect of my teenage years and my young adult years. And still, sometimes, that overwhelming grief of that loss it just comes over me 33 years later. I mean, it's been a long time. But most of the strong heritage that I have, it's been women. It's been, other than my dad. My dad's been a really strong influence in my life. But most of it's been grandmothers, great-grandmother, aunts, and my mom. And I'm so thankful for those. But I believe this trend that is in my own family is reflective of what's going on in America. Because our culture is trying to emasculate men. They're trying to let women often try to take on those roles that we weren't designed for. And sometimes it's out of necessity. But that's not, nevertheless, whether it's out of necessity or not, it's not the way God designed it. So the family unit is supposed to be intact, and we like that. We want our men to be leaders in the home. And don't misunderstand this, though. I'm all for strong and independent ladies. I'm a proponent of education. I'm a proponent of investing in yourselves, but making sure you're able to support yourself. I think that's important to both men and women. I strongly support that. But when you enter into marriage, know your roles. It'll help you. If you don't try to take over, if you're a woman, if you don't try to take over the man's role, and in a lady, and a man don't try to take over the woman's role. I love music. I sing and I play, and I just love music. But when something's out of tune, it just breaks your nerves, doesn't it? That's how it is with your roles in marriage. If you're out of tune, you live in frustration. Frustration leads to resentment. Resentment leads to bitterness. And what's the Bible say about roots of bitterness? In Hebrews 12:14, it says, "Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord, looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright." So I want to be cautious of that. The root system, if something bitter gets in it. I heard a saying, a man came to our church and he preached a whole series on forgiveness. And he said over and over again, he said, bitter root, bitter fruit. So I believe that whatever gets in your root system, it comes out in what you yield in your fruitful years. So strong marriages, strong families, strong churches. I believe this church already teaches that, and I'm not telling you anything new. But the family unit has been so attacked over the last several decades. It used to be very common to see families come into the church with a husband, a wife, and children. At least in our area, that's rare now. We have very few of those come in. So the level of dysfunction is at an all-time high. So divorce, remarriage, step-parents, and then addiction. And then there's this phenomenon of grandparents having to raise the kids because the parents aren't stepping up to do what they ought to do. So all of that is running rampant in this generation. But God, right? Such were some of us, right? Some of us were in those situations. But God, do you all know that song, "The Devil Thought He Had Me"? He thought I was dead. So, but God. So Ephesians 2:4-5 says, "But God, who is rich in mercy, for his great love wherewith he loved us, even when we were dead in sins, hath quickened us together with Christ. By grace ye are saved." Here's what AI has to say about dysfunctional families. A dysfunctional family is a system characterized by recurring conflict, instability, neglect, or abuse, whether negative behavior is normal and members struggle to thrive. Such families often feature poor communication, lack of boundaries, and unresolved issues, frequently stemming from addiction, untreated mental illness, or codependency. So these non-traditional families, there's the presence of so much pain and so much hurt. And these situations, they do bring a set of challenges, but God's transformative power is greater than any dysfunction that we have. Anything that we bring, God's not afraid of it. He says, "Come unto me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest." And there is a peace that comes over you when you're serving God with all of your heart. Romans 12:2 says, "And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God." So no matter your background, no matter your Pentecostal pedigree or the lack thereof, your broken dysfunction or the trauma that you faced, and I know there's probably got to be some trauma in this room, there's a place for you in the church. And there's a place, the dysfunctional family, it said that one of the characteristics was instability. You know what a deep root system will do? It'll give you stability. Because if they grow wide and they grow deep, in the storms that come, and they come, and they come, and they come, your roots get stronger if you are feeding the right nutrients. The church really helps us form lasting connections and brings us business opportunities. It's a safe place to hide when the storms are raging, right? A place to unload when your heart is overwhelmed, and a place to recharge when your to-do list is just endless and you feel exhausted before you even start your day. Have you all been there? I'm there sometimes still right now. There's a young woman that came to our church more than 5 years ago now, and she had lost her first husband to a drug overdose. She was left with 2 small children to raise, and then she got married shortly thereafter to a man that was divorced too, and he had a son of his own. There was lots of dysfunctional family dynamics that they were dealing with, but she was so hungry for God. She knew nothing of apostolic doctrine, but the man she married knew a little bit, and they wanted more. So they walked into the doors of our church one day, and I'm not sure what they thought at first. I think she was kind of blown away and taken back a little bit, but I was able to connect with her right away, and that was key for her. She was looking for someone to care. Have you ever heard the saying that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care? That was her. Very long story short, she was abandoned by her mother when she was about 7. Abusive home life. She was searching for a place where she could connect, and connect she did. There's been a lot of training and teaching going on for several years now. She just needed to be shown the beauty of holiness, the importance of being present for her own kids, because not to repeat a generational curse, and the list goes on. There were so many problems, and sometimes those insecurities that she's dealing with, they still try to undermine her and still try to creep up, but being connected to the body is so important. It provides that stability. Like I said earlier, my roots are deep and they're wide. So her roots have become intertwined with mine, and it provides a stability that is so desperately needed. And now she's beginning to pour into others. So I feel like the formula for this is that we need to connect, help them stabilize, and they grow some, and then we repeat the process. That's it. Connection is so important. Being connected, having intertwined root systems will be of great benefit to you. If you're in a position in life right now that you can provide that kind of support like I did to her, you should do it. You should look for those that are hurting, those who are less stable, and try to support their root system. Try to help them. However, if you're on the other side of it and you're in need of that, you need to reach out. You need to get connected to other people in the church. And it provides such strength to you when you're going through times. Because have you ever seen a little tree out in a storm that's just getting blown and it looks like it's going to blow over, and it often does? It's because it doesn't have the root system and it's not intertwined with others. So get connected. And don't let any of the so-called dysfunction make you feel like you aren't worthy. If your home life growing up was terrible, then that doesn't mean you have to have the same in your family. Examine your root system and see what's missing. Fertilize it. So if it needs, in natural world, if it needs more phosphorus or, whatever it needs, you need to provide the right nutrients. So examine the situation. Check out your roots. See if they're healthy or if they need some growing. They need to go deeper and wider. And then what's the problem? Are they too dry? Do you need more water? Do you need more spirit? Are they too wet? There's not a flow. It has to be a flow. There, you need the right combination of nutrients. And the best way we can do that is really get the Word of God in our hearts. We all know to pray. We all know to read our Bibles, but there's a difference in really getting a hold of the Word of God and in letting it really change who I am and letting me examine myself and say, what can I do differently? So Psalms 119, this is a little bit of a lengthy reading, but I love this scripture. Blessed are the undefiled in the way who walk in the law of the Lord. Blessed are they that keep his testimonies and that seek him with the whole heart. They also do no iniquity. They walk in his ways. Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently. Oh, that my ways were directed to keep thy statutes. Then shall I not be ashamed when I have respect unto all thy commandments. I will praise thee with uprightness of heart. When I shall have learned thy righteous judgments, I will keep thy statutes. Oh, forsake me not utterly. Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed thereto according to the word. With my whole heart I have sought thee. Oh, let me not wander from thy commandments. Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against God. That's one of my favorite scriptures. Blessed art thou, O Lord, teach me thy statutes. So we have some unmarried folks here too, right? Is that correct? But we have mostly families, but some young unmarried folks. So it matters who you marry. It matters that your values are aligned. And if I could offer you some advice that is cliched, but oh so powerful, pray diligently and fast, because that choice that you're making, I believe it's one of the most important choices in your life. And it can positively impact you or negatively impact you. And so surround yourself with those who will lift you up, not tear you down. Linking up with the wrong root system will cause you problems. Think about how an illness starts. Germs contaminate, and then it irritates, and then you get sick. And so that's what chronic problematic relationships, they'll deplete you of your strength and make you unfruitful. So I mentioned earlier that I lost my brother as a teenager. And I think that grief and trauma, I think it stole a lot of my teenage memories, and it really colored my outlook for years. And so when I met my husband, it's going to get real now. When I met my husband, we started dating, and then we broke up. It wasn't very long. And then I got engaged to my childhood sweetheart. And I called that off too, but I always felt like I was pulling him up. Our values were not aligned. And it took me a while to figure everything out. My husband he knew that he felt like we were supposed to be together. So we after that, we got back together and we got engaged. 26 days before the wedding, I called it off. So we had just broken up, but from that point, so it was tumultuous times, and it was hard, and he loved me even still. Can you imagine? We're married today, 23 years. So I'm thankful for that. But it took me a while to figure out who I was and who I needed to be. I dated too much. I felt pressure to stay with my mom and dad, who had lost their only son. I was all they had left. I felt pressured to stay with them in their church. And I needed some time to heal. So 3 years later, we ran into each other in the mall around Christmas time. And long story short, he said, "I'll marry you. I won't date you, but I'll marry you." I'd made him gun shy. So 3 months later, we were married. So I said all that to say that sometimes timing is everything. God's timing is perfect, and I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect, and I had a lot of healing to do. So make sure you're aware. I'm glad I didn't go through with it too soon. I could have destroyed both of our ministries. So I could have, if I'd done it then and wasn't ready, I could have, been one that our marriage may not have lasted, or I could have caused a problem that I didn't want to cause. And so timing is everything. So be in tune and don't be afraid to do what's best for you, even if it's really hard. And that was really hard, standing up to two churches. We had the showers and, all of that, and say, we're not going to get married right now. And 3 years later, then we get married. So, but when we did finally get married, we had some things that were non-negotiables. We will serve God. Some people don't have their mind made up. We will serve God. So I've been on a little bit of a health journey this last couple months now, and I made up my mind I was cutting sugar and taking control. I'm a type 2 diabetic, and I had gestational diabetes with all 3 of my pregnancies. And after the last one, Kaylin, almost 13 years ago, it took me that long to determine that I was worth fighting for my health. But my health is worth the effort, and I made up my mind. Once I made up my mind, it is hard to distract. I'm a force to be reckoned with once I make up my mind, and you can too. So it's non-negotiable. We will serve the Lord. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So we came into our marriage with that thought in mind. We will serve the Lord. We don't say the D word. We don't say the D word ever. We are committed to one another. So every time we have a disagreement or conflict, I know of couples that say, well, I'll just leave. I'll just get a divorce. It's not, this isn't working. That's not the way it is. We are committed to one another, and you do not threaten one another with divorce ever. We work through it. we're going to make it. If there's a conflict, that's just an opportunity for us to resolve it. So the other thing, one of our core values, I think, is that we both work really hard. There's no room for laziness in marriage. It takes work. Can I get an amen on that? There's no room for laziness in marriage. And for that matter, there's no room for laziness in the kingdom. We all have a work to do. We're all called. We're all called to do a work for Him and to be fruitful in our lives. So the other thing that is our core value is we keep our home a safe place, a place where you want to spend time. Have you ever walked in a place and you could just feel the tension? And I don't want my home to be like that. In fact, I'm a homebody. And if I had my preference, I usually would stay home rather than do anything else in the world. I love to be at home. It's a safe place for me, and it feels good in my home. And I want that for you, because there is such a peace. So can you imagine if it's turmoil all the time and fighting and negativity? And so your home is a haven, and it'll help you and your children's roots grow deep and wide if the temperature is right in your home. If you're quick to anger, it causes things to be too hot. And if you're indifferent, it causes things to be too cold. So we want the right temperature, because it's important. It'll cause your roots to be healthy. So you all that are married, don't neglect what strengthens you. In marriage, we often lose sight of the person that we fell in love with. And frankly, after a few years, your spouse really is not the same person you married. We all change, and we should. I hope we're growing. Priorities shift, responsibilities increase. But gentlemen, it's important to remember what it took to get her. So I just throw that in there. Date nights are important. Family dinners are important. If you have small children, it's good to establish family dinners around the dinner table. You know that just 5 to 7 nights per week, if you have dinner together, it's linked to lower rates of substance abuse, lower tobacco smoking and depression, and higher self-esteem in your children just from having dinner together. So, I know sometimes in my own household, I've tried to reharness that family dinner time, because sometimes my kids all want to get something and go somewhere else. And I'm like, I just say there's no food allowed in there, but that's not really what it's about. It's really about gathering them back into so we can be together, because there's something about a family that really hangs out and enjoys being with each other. It's strong. It's strong. So, and giving them, making them help you cook dinner and clean up and all those things, those are beautiful things to start early, because I always say many hands make light work. So, I like light work, then we can have fun. I like to have fun. Maybe for those date nights, maybe those people that you got connected with in the church that I was talking about earlier, maybe they'll babysit for you, and you can get a little self-care and go out. We built a house, and we've been in it for about a year now, but clearing the lot, that was the first step. And my husband was a builder, and he's built a lot of houses, but this was my first ground up experience. So we were clearing the land. He had to rent a big machine because it was a heavily wooded piece of property, and he had to dig around those trees because he couldn't. It was a big machine, but they were tall, skinny trees. They didn't look that strong, really. But when he got to pushing on them with the machine, they wouldn't come down. They would not come down unless he dug around the roots and got them disconnected. So I feel that so strongly, that your connection to the body of Christ is key. in your roots being strong. So one other connection reference. When my kids were little, we were living away from West Virginia in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And I was often there alone and very isolated. No support system. And that's not to say my husband's family and my own family, my mom and dad, they came up every chance they got. That doesn't change the fact that I was still there a great deal by myself. My husband, the first year, he was still living in West Virginia, and I was there with 2 small boys by myself most of the time. In a city I didn't know, in a place I didn't know the culture, I didn't know the people, I didn't have any kind of support system, and I was living, this is funny, the first place my husband called trying to find us a place to rent because our son was very ill, and we needed to move. We needed to relocate to be close to the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia. So he called this trailer, this mobile home park, for us to rent a place. It was a 55 and older, retirement kind of community. But they were so kind to me, and I got to be in that location surrounded by little grandmas. And in fact, I'm still in contact with a few of them to this day, and it's been 14 years. So that time in my life, I was isolated, overwhelming sense of loneliness and I can't do this. Exhaustion, overwhelm, feelings of inadequacy and failure because I felt like I wasn't being a strong enough disciplinarian. I had a sick child, and then so I wasn't strong enough on discipline on the other one, because if you don't discipline that one, it's really hard to do the other one. So I felt like a failure so many times. And when my husband would get there, I would usually immediately walk out the door because I didn't go anywhere in particular. I walked the aisles of Walmart that was just a block or 2 away, or just a short drive, or just went and sat in the car because I just needed that little bit of time to recharge because I was so drained and I had no connection. I had no church there, and I had no source of strength. So I know what it is to be disconnected and lonely and depressed and fighting for your child's life, So it was a tough time. So I know I've said it too many times already, but I cannot make my point strong enough that you've got to have connection. You've got to be strong and get your source of strength. So as they said when they were introducing, I do have my master's in business administration. But I worked harder as a stay-at-home mom during those years where I was there by myself in the city than I ever did at my corporate job. It's so much easier to give them to a babysitter and go to a job. Being at home, it's a hard job, and I give high credit to all those parents who are spending their time and they're investing time in their children. It's the most important job you can have, and it impacts the next generation. So, but you cannot be an island, and my inclination is to withdraw. So connections will stabilize your root system. But I told you the whole story about my husband and I breaking up and all of that, and we finally got married in 2003, and we thought we had life figured out. We had a plan. We made a lot of good choices. So he was a general contractor and was the top builder in our area at 24 years old. So I think that's pretty significant. I was very proud of him. And I'd been working at a large nonprofit clinic, and I was the human resource director, and then I was the business manager. I was climbing the corporate ladder. And I finished up my MBA just a few months after we got married. We got married on spring break for both of us. So those times were so busy in work and college and homework and church and music, but they were so fun too, because we didn't have all that additional responsibility yet. So that would come later with children and with ministry. So we were busy, but we were still able to have a lot of fun. And we had disposable income. That was really nice too. I miss those days. But my husband felt that call on his life, but with every tug on his heart toward ministry, you know what happened? There was always a business opportunity, always, every time. And it would usually occur at the same time frame. He'd feel the tug, business opportunity. And most of the time, he wasn't sure how to pursue the call, so he pursued the business opportunities at that time. And we really thought we had our life laid out, how we were going to do it. We were going to be comfortable. We were going to be I had the corporate job where I carried the insurance and took care of all that. And then he'd build a house and sell it, and he'd get a chunk, and we'd be like, oh, let's buy a house. And, so we really thought we had life figured out. But our ways are not his ways, and our plans are not his plans. And I think that God was trying to call him and to his will, and we did not know what was coming. But we held on to those core values. We still put God first. We will serve God, come what may. So we, after about 3 years after we were married, we were expecting a baby, and this would have been the first grandchild on both sides of the family. We had just made the announcement at Christmas, and you could feel the excitement. But in January, I began experiencing complications, and it turned out the pregnancy was not viable. It was called a molar pregnancy. It was just a mass that develops with cysts and HCG levels that go sky high. And they started throwing around the word cancer, scared us to death, and it really shook our world. But we continued to serve faithfully. And I remember praying at that time. I was heartbroken, but I prayed. I said, I trust you, God. And I had no idea how much my faith in God would be tested in the years to come. So a year or so later, I was expectant again. We were nervous because of what had happened. And I remember the tears of relief that rolled down my face the first time I heard his heartbeat. And it was such a beautiful sound after such a devastating loss before. And I remember holding my breath while they were searching with the ultrasound for that heartbeat or the whatever it was. I can't remember right now. It's been a long time. But I remember sighing a breath of relief when I heard the heartbeat. So it would only be a few short months though the next blow came. That call in my husband's life, it was still there. But he took a job opportunity in Louisiana and in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. And I flew down to be with him a few days after my appointment. But the day of my 18-week anatomy ultrasound, my mom, my mother-in-law, and one of my sister-in-laws, I believe, was there. And the scan was taking a really long time. And finally, the tech said, the baby isn't cooperating. And I'm not able to get pictures of all 4 chambers of the heart, but you could tell it was more than the baby not cooperating. There was just this eerie silence, and I felt absolutely numb, and I didn't know how to react. So the next several months, we had a plethora of appointments, recommendations, and ultimately I flew to Boston, and I had a surgery, a fetal intervention at 26 weeks. And then I traveled to Boston on my 30th birthday at 36 weeks and delivered in Boston. They wanted me there for a few weeks. So at 38 weeks, we delivered a boy. We didn't find out we had all these ultrasounds every week, like really echoes by ultrasound, but we didn't find out if it was a boy or a girl. So that was the only normal thing about the whole process. And when we did have him, we were like, is it a boy or a girl? And it was a boy, and his name is Gary Brandon. And he's 18 years old now, and God has really blessed us. But he was born with hypoplastic right heart syndrome. Left is really common. Right is not. And he would fight for years. He had 4 open heart surgeries, more than 25 heart catheterizations. He's had kidney surgery. After his last surgery, he got this rare complication called plastic bronchitis. And from there, it was that's when it got too hard. And his doctors in Boston, I feel like, gave up on him. So we were faced, I sat in a room with doctors, and I said, they were giving us all these, we were kind of asking what the prognosis is, and they said, well, anybody that we've seen with this combination of problems never made it past 2 years of age. He was 4. So I got to tell those best cardiac surgeons in the world, but God. And I'm so thankful for that day. I still hold to that over and over again. But our life began to revolve around Gary Brandon's care. And would I do it all again? In a heartbeat. Did it cause me to be more compassionate? For sure. And did it change my heart forever? It did. But those times were so hard. So hard. Everything. We needed everything. We needed financial help. We needed compassion. We needed people to fill in for us at our jobs. We needed prayer and compassion. So those times in your life, it's good to have roots that are deep and that are wide. Because during that time, my employer was very generous. This was before we moved to Philly, but I was still working in West Virginia, and I never missed a paycheck. In 4 years of going back and forth to Boston, I never missed a paycheck. And they had to change the policy after I left because there were so many people that donated their sick leave to me. And do you know why? I had deep roots. And I made connections. And I had shown compassion to people in tough spots for the previous 9 years that I had worked there. So then it was my turn to reap. And I believe in that. If you can get the concept of sowing and reaping in your life, it'll serve you really well. Because I needed to reap some outpouring of love from people. It was amazing how many people helped us, and they touched our lives. So you sow bad seed, though, you bear bad fruit. You sow good seed, you bear good fruit. That's a biblical principle. So, but roots really are pretty impressive. Trees really can't bear fruit without the root, right? You need them. It provides the stability and strength. Roots don't stop growing. Roots need water. We need the Holy Ghost to send the nutrients. It carries the nutrients that we need up through the plant. If the soil is bad, change it. If it's too hard, too compact, aerate it. I pray a prayer all the time, and I have for years, since I was a child. I've always prayed, God, let my heart be tender towards you. You cannot have hardness towards God and his ways. So, God, let my heart always be tender toward you. There's got to be proper water flow. And I already talked about the temperature. Is it too hot? They'll dehydrate and have a tough time absorbing the nutrients. If it's too cold, it'll cause them to freeze up and die. So down to earth advice that I can give for you in this season of your life, because I know I took a long time going through some of that, but I just want you to know that even in those really, really hard times, the dark and the times that are a struggle, if you can have that source of strength over and over, God will provide. He'll carry you through it. So for kids with families with small children, involve your children in your devotion. So I've seen a lot of parents who are really committed and they're doing all they know to do, but they neglect actually getting their children involved in that. And maybe you all are doing that. I sometimes neglected that in my world. I was doing, but I was failing sometimes to teach my own children the way that they should do that. So do it with them. Get it involved early on, and do teach them the Word. Make it beautiful to them. We want them to love the Word of God. So I try to teach my kids. I have great kids. I try to teach them principles, not rules and regulations. So if your children can get the principles in their heart, you won't have any problems with them following the rules. And our kids are far from perfect, but we are striving. But this includes things like honesty and integrity, a heart of a servant. You know that we can plant that in them, a heart of a servant, giving of our time and resources, resilience when not everything is going our way. But the fruit of the Spirit, I want that, right? There's Stephen Curtis Chapman song when I was a teenager, that was a long time ago. Loving, joyful, peaceful, patient, kind, and good, and full of faith. That's what I want. I want the fruit of Spirit all the time to be evident in my life, and I want it in my kids' life. But we have to plant that if we want it to grow. So it's important. But the fruit of the Spirit, I missed meekness and temperance. I guess Stephen Curtis Chapman didn't know about meekness and temperance. He didn't add that in my song. But if the fruit that you're manifesting, if it doesn't have a good flavor, if it's not yielding what you want, if it's really small in size, you've got a root problem. The good news is the root system is really resilient. It takes some time, but all you have to do is change something that you're ingesting. Sometimes it's not sin. Often it's not sin. It's just too much of anything can be a problem. So I have a saying that I say to my kids and we have a small school at the church, and I'm with those kids all the time. I tell them all the time, out of balance in any direction is still out of balance, period. So show them what it is to fall in love with Jesus. If you love someone, it shows. So get involved yourself and get your children involved as soon as possible. I feel like that's the thing that I've done that's been the most beneficial. I've gotten my kids in music lessons, trying to teach them to sing harmony parts and all that, just all the time. We do anytime in the car. I'm like, let's sing and let's have a good time. So get them involved as soon as possible. If you're involved, bring them with you. That's what we did. I had baby on my hip when we were in rehearsal, and then find somebody to watch the child during worship service. But serving God is a joy, and we've got to present it as such. It's not a chore. It's joy unspeakable and full of glory. It's a joy to serve God. Serve the Lord with gladness. And don't rush your season. Be faithful in the season that you're in. Timing is important. Let God give the increase as you apply the law of sowing and reaping. And if you mess up, go back, fix the roots, because you can do it. They're resilient, and it will change. So I will open the floor to any questions that you all may have, and then I'll turn it back to Brother Hunter.
While everyone's preparing their questions, I did have one that was given to me. What are some things you do to make your home a place your children want to be?
Well, I try not to overreact when they do something that is, not what I wanted them to do. I try not to overreact because that moment of me getting too heated and angry, it creates that temperature that's not conducive to growth. And so I think I try to keep the temperature nice in my temperament, and I also try to, you make the meals that they like to eat, things like that just make them feel really loved and special, because they are. They're my world, and I'm so thankful for them, and I want them to feel that from me. So I just try to keep an even temperature.
What does involving your children in your devotion look like across different ages?
So I think when they're small, I think it's finding a children's Bible or something that's on their level, and reading that to them on a consistent basis. It's having their, when you're having some prayer time, I feel like it's having them right there in the middle of it with you. Because have you ever been in a service where kids are kind of rowdy, but then when the Holy Ghost sweeps through, there's kind of a holy hush? Kids feel that spiritual tugging too. And I believe that if we can do it at home and they feel the Holy Ghost at home, then it translates into a deeper relationship as they grow. So I think it just changed. And then, maybe when they're in school age, they're reading and things, maybe they lead the devotion. Maybe they have something that they can do to add to the devotion in your home. But, does that answer your question? You feel like that's good? Okay.
What about vegetables?
Vegetables. What about vegetables?
It's a pretty loaded question. You mentioned eating earlier, so where's the line at as far as fixing food for the kids and that fight? That the parent fights with the kid as far as food that you want them to eat and
right,
the food that they
because
don't want to eat.
Sugar all the time is not healthy. I have to admit, I really battle this one with my family, and there's a reason. I figured it out, I think. But Gary Brandon, he's 18 now, but when he was little, he was in the hospital and out of the hospital and in the hospital and out of the hospital. But he still got a lot of his grandmother's cooking while I was working. And so he got exposed to all kinds of foods that he likes. He's a great eater. He can out-eat anybody. And he's so thin. He's just, I think he weighs 115 pounds. And he's very thin. He's like 5'8", 5'9", I don't know. But he eats everything. He likes chicken, he likes steak, he likes vegetables, he likes beans, he likes anything that you make. He loves gravy and biscuits and everything. Bring on Nathan. Nathan's 16 now. Nathan was born when we were still having such a struggle with Gary Brandon in and out of the hospital. And he got to choose what he ate all the time because his brother was in the hospital. So we were saying, do you want mac and cheese or chicken nuggets? And because that's all there was on the kids' menus everywhere we were. So I feel like he missed that. To this day, I can get him to eat 2 vegetables. He'll eat green beans, and I don't know why, but that's green beans. And now, in the last year, he'll eat greens. And that one just blew my mind. But so I think we want him to have a balanced diet, but do your best, because it's just, life is hard. So if it's so hard, give him the mac and cheese. Some things are not worth it. So our daughter was born later, a few years later, and I was more successful in her because it's what you introduce them to. It's what they get accustomed to. So it's hard to break the habits, though, after they get started. So she is a much healthier eater than that middle one who got to choose everything. So.
What are some things that you implemented in your season of healing before you met your husband?
Well, I would not date anyone. And, that was a change for me because, I wasn't bad, but I did date too much. And if somebody asked me out, I'd be like, well, okay. So, let's go to dinner or whatever. But when I finally realized that I was just trying to fill a void that was missing, I took some time. I would not accept any dates. I was like, no, thank you. I'm good. And then I did take a season of recommitting myself to God and His will, and it served me well. I took time to figure out, I was telling you the other day, to find out my own identity, who I was in God, and who I wanted to be in life. And then the time came that I could, and I also had a really strong attachment, I still do, to my parents. I have the most wonderful parents. It was so hard for me to disappoint them in anything. So leaving my mom and dad, my dad's church, leaving his church to go to where my husband was, that was hard for me. So I finally had to figure out who I was and what I was going to do and who I was going to be. And it, cliche or not, prayer and fasting. So it was a long 3 years.
Any other questions? We've got time for like one more.
How you doing?
Good.
So I guess my question is, how do I implement boundaries? I work hard. When I come home, the kids, mostly the boys, are, hey, Dad, how are you? What do you got for me? I love them, but I don't like that. So I say, how about you ask Dad what his day was like? So then it goes, hey, Dad, how's your day? What do you got for me?
What do you have for me?
How do I implement boundaries? They're kids, they're innocent, so sometimes I'll come home with a gift or whatever, but I don't want them to always think that there's a gift,
Right.
Just for asking Dad how his days was. I want to go to the room, I want to just have a nap, but I play with them and then crash out later. How do I put boundaries there? I don't want to deny them dad time, but I don't want them to think dad time is always a gift.
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's a tough one. And so I feel like they crave that attention, and I give you great applause for when you do come home, that you do spend some time with them. That is something that's missing in so much of America. They are missing their dad taking time. The male figure is missing out of so many families, and even if they are in the home, they're not present with them. So, and maybe the gift that you're given is I'm the gift. I'm the gift. I love you, and my love is your gift, and my time with you is a gift. And I think it'll take time, but I think you're doing the right things by spending some time with them. And I know you're tired when you come home, but it's worth the investment. They won't always be that small, and they won't always want to be with you. And so if they want to be with you, embrace it. And it is a time of weariness, but it's worth every minute that you invest in your kids. So.
Very good. Well, thank you so much. Can we give her a hand clap of appreciation? Thank you very much. Well, there was so much wisdom in what she had to say, and you could tell that she wasn't just coming up purely with everything from AI. Maybe she started that way, but she quickly transitioned to her own human experience. And you know what? We're all in the throes of this, living this thing called life. And one thing I really keyed on what she said, I've heard pastor teach on this before, and it was very transformative in our home, and that was this. My wife's very good at this. It's important to teach and discipline based on and around biblical principles because we all break the rules at times. And have you ever broke the speed limit? Maybe on the way here tonight. And so if you start a culture of because I said so or because that's the rule or whatever, but then your kids see you break rules, then you appear as a hypocrite. But when you go back to biblical principles and say it's not just because I said so, but it's based on the principle of obedience, and God calls us to obey, and so you're going to obey because I said so. But when you do it and you point it's a good filter for me because when you're tired and you're frustrated, things like that, sometimes as a parent it's very challenging to keep that straight. But if you set that as the mark of your teaching and discipline in a home, especially with children, then you always have something to go back onto and say, hey, look, we're all trying to live up to the principles of God's work. We all fall short from time to time, but that's the mark. That's what we're aiming for. And so you can never be accused of a hypocrite when you're all striving together to reach the mark of God's word. And so that, to me, really stood out. And I know my wife is very good at implementing that in our home, and she taught me that, and now I'm trying to work it out as well. But I'm telling you what, this has been such a good session. Thank you again, and thank you all for your time and attention for these valuable sessions. We'll see you again Sunday. Today's Tuesday. I'm still getting that schedule worked out. So we'll see you Sunday, Lord willing. There's going to be 5:30 a.m. prayer. If you're able, come. And there's going to be other activities throughout the week. Enjoy this evening, and we'll see you again in service next time. God bless you.